Parental alienation syndrome is all the rage in child custody cases. It has its adherents and its detractors. Gina Passarella explains.
All right, well, the court finds you in direct contempt. I ordered you to have a healthy relationship with your father. You are a defiant, contemptuous young man, and I'm ordering you to Children's Village. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Michigan Judge Lisa Gorsuch made national headlines, sending 3 children who refused to see their father to juvenile detention.
The court's primary concern is the best interest of these children. The decision was made so they could be put in a setting where they would not be emotionally manipulated and pressured to love one parent and hate the other.
After 5 years and more than 100 pleadings, Gorsuch said she acted out of frustration. But one of the children testified he would not see his dad because
he's violent and I saw him hit my mom.
A judicial commission suspended Gorsuch for misconduct. That's on appeal before Michigan's Supreme Court. But the incident put the national spotlight on something family law courts have been dealing with for years: parental alienation.
It's basically a systemic way of making a child not want to be with the other parent. And so there's been instances of people cutting, like, dad's picture out of a family portrait.
I'll say brainwash or influence a child against the other parent. Unfortunately, it's in a boatload of cases. This is not 1 out of 10.
And that goes for the wealthy and famous, too. Allegations of parental alienation are central in the Brad Pitt-Angelina Jolie divorce.
The parent that alienates a child from the other parent ultimately winds up being on the very short end of the stick.
But alienation is not always a conscious act.
Hear what I'm saying.
They can say things directly to the child, such as, your father's not paying child support. That's why I can't get you that new skateboard. That would be obviously a conscious decision. There could be unconscious ways of alienating, such as they're on the phone with a friend or relative, and they're stressed and they want to talk about what's happening, about custody, and they don't realize that their children are listening to every word.
And kids pick up cues. Kids are quick, they're perceptive.
Today, 17 states and numerous countries recognize Parental Alienation Awareness Day. But the terminology is not without controversy.
I think when you talk about just parental alienation, it's not so controversial. It's when you say parental alienation syndrome.
Parental alienation syndrome, a term coined by the late forensic psychiatrist Richard Gardner. He considered it a disorder arising primarily out of child custody disputes. But the American Psychiatric Association does not specifically list it in its Manual of Mental Disorders.
I think it's really very, very difficult to prove, and judges are sort of cynical about it. To prove parental alienation, you really have to get a judge on board and be able to show the judge that this is something that's happening over a long period of time, and the child is really being turned away from the parent who's being alienated.
Parental alienation syndrome is not a recognized standard in many courts of law, but the fact that it's wending its way into judges' language and their court opinions is not lost on family law attorneys or their clients. For the American Law Journal, I'm Gina Passarella.